example, in the last 24 hours, we've had so many additional physicians, nurses, and other healthcare workers not on shift come in to volunteer their time to make sure that all our patients are getting the best possible care. Joining me today are key members of our medical team who have been directly involved in the response efforts. They'll share updates on patient conditions, they'll explain the medical protocols we have followed, and answer questions as appropriate. But first, I want to invite Dr. Richard McCullough, President of FSU, to make a few brief remarks. Dr. McCullough.
Thank you very much. From the bottom of my heart, I just wanted to express our gratitude to the healthcare professionals who took care of our students who were shot and injured, and we just appreciate it so much. We can't say enough good things about Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. The hospital's done an amazing job with us throughout this tragedy, and we just appreciate so much the great job that everybody's done here. I just wanted to express that gratitude to all of you.
Dr. Brett Howard, I think will start us off.
Yes, so my name is Brett Howard. I'm one of the trauma and general surgeons here at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. We're going to go ahead and first introduce everybody. We'll start down at the end.
I'm Dr. Megan Morrow, one of the trauma and general surgeons here.
I'm Matthew Terzo, Trauma and General Surgery.
Pat Pennington, I'm one of the general surgeons and trauma surgeon.
Melissa Amundsen, maxillofacial trauma.
Joey Gerard, General Surgery.
Matthew Ramser, trauma and general surgery.
Jared Robertson, colorectal and general surgery.
Shelby Blank, general surgery and breast surgery.
Tracy Graham, emergency medicine.
So shortly before noon yesterday, we were notified of a event occurring on FSU campus. At that time, ER, surgery, and OR leadership, as well as our administration, responded to our emergency department and prepared to receive patients. Shortly thereafter, we began receiving patients. Those were gunshot wounds to extremities, chest, abdomen, all in rather stable condition. We activated certain resources that we have. This is unfortunately things that we trained for, although do not expect to occur, but we were prepared and activated certain resources. We in total received 6 patients. All 6 were in stable condition upon arrival. 3 of them did go to the operating room and have since left the operating room. All 6 of them today are in stable condition, one which is in fair condition given a serious injury. We do feel that all will make a full recovery. 2 of them are possibly going home today, which we're extremely proud of. Overall, you know, like I said, unfortunately we do have to prepare for these sort of events, and I can't speak enough for the team that's here and the team that's not here. Our community, especially our medical community, is extremely close. You know, everything from our law enforcement, our EMTs, firefighters, FSU, you know, is a really big part of this hospital. And so that relationship, as well as the relationship between our nurses, our techs, our doctors, really is why things here went very smoothly. And I am extremely proud of all of them. We will open up for some questions. Otherwise, that's it.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
News Nation. In your line of business, everything, can you talk about the work of the EMS responders getting patients to you quickly? And then can you, in any sort of way, lay out what happens when you receive a sort of kind of, I don't know if you're going to call it a mass incident, but some sort of influx of patients from one area, how that works?
Yes, we have systems in place. We are communicating right away with law enforcement and EMS. The biggest part of this is you don't know how many patients you're going to receive. So we are prepared to activate as many resources as we need. That's why you see so many surgeons up here today, because they all came immediately to help. We have a trauma surgeon that mostly does breast surgery now. We have a trauma surgeon that does mostly colorectal, but they all respond. But yeah, the hardest part of it all is you don't know how many patients you're going to get.
Dr. Howard, can you talk with respect to patient confidentiality about the disease that you were able to treat? I mean, you have a variety of different surgeons up here from a variety of different disciplines. So what kind of injuries were you faced with?
Yeah, so Dr. Ramsay, if you want to give a little more detail on that.
We faced injuries that involved the torso and extremities, some of which require surgery, some of which can be managed without surgery. The response was very fast and the patients were relatively stable, so we were able to successfully treat all of the injuries, which involved abdominal surgical procedures, also facial surgery.
Without violating HIPAA, are you able to tell us ages of any of the victims, any sort of demographic information?
No, sorry, we can't give you any of the specific age details or details related to the patients.
Were any of you able to talk to any of the patients and describe their attitude coming in? Obviously, they're shock and trauma, so what was that like?
Yeah, so they were all, and I've said this on other interviews, very, very brave. You know, there's the moment of shock, but all were able to talk to us, kind of know how they're feeling, where they're feeling pain. But you know, all of them were very clear-minded and able to converse with us.
Trying to get some clarity on the number. You said 6 total victims treated here. Does that include the suspect, or is he treated elsewhere? And were all of these gunshot victims?
Yeah, so 6 patients. That's all I can tell you.
Were they all gunshot victims?
Yes.
Doctor, can you clarify when you say fair and stable, is one worse than the other at this time?
So one we'll say is fair, mostly because of some of to the seriousness of their injury, but still should make a full recovery.
We keep hearing from students on campus that this has shattered their sense of safety and security. I'm wondering how you guys are doing after you've gone through what you went through, and also, I was here in 2014 for the mass shooting then. I'm wondering if any of you were here as well, and what that's like to go through several mass shootings.
Dr. Blank?
I was. It was, you know, obviously a little more of a limited situation, but I think, you know, unfortunately, you know, traumatic violence is something that goes on, you know, whether it's a few over the course of a weekend versus many compressed into a couple of hours. Obviously, this gets a lot more attention than the injuries and the gunshots that happen on any given weekend in any given community. You know, I think it's, you know, it's something unfortunately you don't ever want to be inured to, but I think that, you know, we were very lucky. Obviously, this was catastrophic, but given the numbers of students in that compressed area, the recipe for disaster is, you know, is very scary.
So were you here during 2014?
In 2014, you know, one of the students, all the students survived, but one didn't have prostate, he's paraplegic. You know, when we say all of the patients are expected to make full recovery, will any have lasting issues like that?
Again, I won't give any specifics at this time. I would say comparably, I expect all 6 to make full recoveries.
The 2 deceased, did they make it here at all? Was there any chance to, or was that an issue on just that?
No, we received 6 patients. Yeah.
What is the condition of the shooter? The condition of the shooter right now?
We have no comment on any sort of related to the shooter. Yeah, we have 6 patients here.
So that's the clarification. You can't say that you
Correct.
and you can't say that they're students or not.
Correct.
So you have 6 victims here of a mass shooting. How does it work with them being treated? Are they on the, say for instance, they don't have insurance, the victims, are they on the hook? Do they have to pay, or does the state pay, or how does that work?
We treat every patient the same. You know, all of that is handled separate from what we do. So yeah, again, we don't check insurance cards.
As far as the injuries are concerned and the caliber of weapon used, could you get into those details at all? Were there multiple types of calibers? I only say this because there was an eyewitness who told me they believe they heard 2 different types of guns used by the gunman.
Yeah, I don't have any specific information on that.
The patient was in fair condition. Was that the one who recovered facial surgery, or you just said?
I can't speak to that, sorry.
Is there a patient that required facial surgery?
Yes.
What would you say you learned from that event? I mean, because you guys, I think every time something happens, I'm sure you guys regroup, talk about it, and then, you know, try to implement, God forbid it happens again. What was this like for you guys?
I'll say our system worked. We at least do one simulation a year. Again, we were prepared. I always like to say we learned something from every sort of interaction and any sort of event. So, but if anything, I'm just proud of everybody. I think what speaks to it is the relationship we have with our entire staff, with our hospital, and just, you know, the importance of continuing to practice.
One simulation a year, is that table exercises, or do you have people wheel
We
in
do a
and-
full event.
What are the differences or similarities between reality and exercise?
All right, as you see there, we're listening into this update from the Tallahassee Hospital on the condition of those victims, saying that they are all expected to survive. Of course, this happened after the deadly shooting on the campus of Florida State University, where 2 people were killed, but the other 6 victims who were injured, taken to this hospital, have been receiving treatment. We'll continue on with the final comments there from this press conference after the break. Thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. Let's continue on with this coverage that we have been of some of these top crime headlines. Now heading to the area near our nation's capital. We do know that earlier today, officials were able to give an update on an officer-involved shooting that was reported at the National Harbor. This officer-involved shooting was reported at the National Harbor, technically in Maryland, this Easter Sunday. According to the police, the incident occurred near the area of St. George Boulevard and Potomac Passage. There's been no word of any injuries at this time or the threat of that shooting. But again, we did get an update from some of those officials about an hour or so ago. Let's listen into that here on Live Now from Fox.
Afternoon. I am Chief Malik Aziz, Chief of the Prince George's County Police Department, with my executive team here who are standing behind me. Right now I have preliminary details. At approximately 8:20 a.m., Division 4 Oxon Hill officers responded to a stabbing call in the 8300 block of Indian Head Highway. Officers discovered 2 victims, a man and a woman, with critical stab wounds. Before fleeing that scene, the suspect also set fire to the apartment. Officers learned the stabbing was domestic related and the suspect was known to the victims. At approximately 10 a.m., officers responded to the National Harbor where they encountered the suspect in that earlier stabbing at St. George Boulevard in Potomac Passage. The suspect was still armed with a knife and moved towards an officer. The two officers discharged their duty weapons. The suspect was struck unknown amount of times at this point. Officers administered emergency care, and that suspect was transported to the hospital, a local hospital, where he died a short time later. No officers were hurt in this incident. The two victims, known from their domestic stabbing, are in critical but stable condition. The Maryland Attorney General's Independent Investigation Division is on the scene, and they've assumed the investigation. With that, I'll take any questions that you may have that I can answer at this time.
I guess, what was the relationship between the suspect and the two stabbing victims? Do we know? Were they family, or what was it?
Well, right now, that's strange. We haven't confirmed that yet, of what the actual relationship was, but we do know they were known to each other.
So there was a fire. Anyone else hurt in the fire?
No, not at this time. Yeah, those two people made it out the fire with the help of Prince George's County Fire Department and Prince George's County police officers. Next question.
Why was he here?
We believe this suspect lives in the National Harbor.
How did he get from? Because that's about a mile away. How did he get from here to here? Did he drive, walk? Yeah.
That is unknown, but we believe at this point that he drove here. But all of that is unconfirmed. Even though that's relatively short distance, we believe he used the vehicle. Any other questions at this time that I can answer?
Are you releasing any identities at this point?
Not at this point. This is still an active and fluid investigation right here, and we're handling the preliminary aspects of it. But the Maryland Attorney General's Office Independent Investigation Division, they're on site right now, and they've assumed the investigation. So, it's for me to come out here and offer what has happened today and let you guys know, give you some updated information so we can, quell some of the speculation to what we know. And we're still learning as we go along. Right now, what we know is there was an officer-involved shooting with a person who had stabbed two people and set fire to an apartment and ended up here in the National Harbor where he resides. And those officers had some type of confrontation in which their duty weapons were discharged. That suspect was struck. That suspect is now deceased.
Before that confrontation with officers, this is a busy area, especially on a beautiful day like today. Do you know if the suspect had confronted anybody else, any non-police officers? Was anybody else hurt here?
Well, we don't know if that's actually a confrontation, but certainly, people who were aware or may have known of this incident, it was going on since the duration of time had taken place, that this suspect right here was possibly, suffering from some type of psychosis, and that was evident that he had already stabbed two people and set the place afire. But we don't know that at this time. It would be pure speculation on our part for us to determine if they know each other or if they were just, people just trying to intervene for the safety of people on site. I think the important thing right here for us to know, the information, is that this emanated from another location, and it is domestic related, and that person ended up back here where they reside, and so those are the important facts at this time, and those officers are safe, but it's an unfortunate incident on a beautiful Sunday, on a special Sunday across the world, and it happened right here in the beautiful National Harbor as these things happen. I would like to offer, without adding too much speculation, but people who go through things, family members know these things, that they should urge loved ones to seek the type of help that we need in order to help us all live in a more vibrant place here without the violence associated with those things. I'll take one last question if that's all you have.
Had you received any other previous calls with the victims in the apartment or the man here?
Well, right now we're researching that. Our team, we're actively researching the previous call history. What we do know today is that there were some calls that happened today when he arrived back here at the National Harbor. And some people who observed what was going on, it alerted them. And right now those issues aren't fully sketched out, but it was some 911 calls here. This particular suspect, this individual, with nothing related here today, we have handled that individual in the past. Prince George's County police officers, as well as across the lines in other departments. I can't speak for them, but this individual was known to Prince George's County police officers in those capacities.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you.
Let me get this last one.
Okay. Do you know, I mean, what was said during these 911 calls stemming from here?
Well, it was people alerting our public safety communications center to an individual, who was armed. And so they did what respectable citizens would do. They called 911 so that police officers, Prince George's County Police, could show up on scene and try to mitigate what was happening here. Enough alarm for them to call 911, if that would make sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that was just an update that we got on a story that we brought to you earlier today here on Live Now from Fox, taking a live look there at the White House at this time. This happened in Prince George's County, Maryland, not too far away. We do know that a suspect was shot and killed in that officer-involved shooting at the National Harbor on this Easter Sunday. So as you can see there during that press conference, we learned a bit more details that this actually began when officers responded back earlier this morning in the 8 o'clock hour to a reported stabbing in the area of Indian Head Highway in Fort Washington, and a 3-story apartment building was set on fire. That's where police discovered 2 victims, a man and a woman, both suffering from critical stab wounds. The suspect did flee the scene and was known by those police officers as well. But it was closer to around 10 a.m. that officers were able to encounter that same suspect there at the National Harbor, who was still armed with a knife as he moved towards the officer. The chief says the 2 officers did discharge their weapons at the suspect. No word, though, at this point on the number of shots that were fired. Emergency care was administered, but the suspect was transported to the local hospital where they later died. Those 2 stabbing victims, though, are in critical condition at this point, but stable. No officers were hurt in this incident. Wanted to bring you that here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to take this time to step away for a 2-minute break. Thanks for staying with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. We do want to continue on with some of our other top stories that we've been following, and this one's going to take us down to Phoenix, Arizona. You may be very familiar with this name. We're talking about Lori Vallow Daybell. Her trial has been ongoing for the last couple of weeks, and we're now looking ahead to see what's going to happen in the next stage. So what we do know right now is that the so-called Doomsday Mom chose to defend herself in her murder conspiracy trial. She was in court all last week, and she told the judge that she has no intention of taking the stand in her own defense. Daybell, though, is accused of conspiring with her brother to kill her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Daybell announced that she decided to rest her case without providing any more evidence or witnesses, and it was Wednesday that those prosecutors also rested their case against Vallow Daybell. She's, again, on trial for that death of her husband. We do want to continue on with this conversation. I want to bring in now the legal analyst that we have, Ben Taylor, friend to the show. Ben, we've been talking about this case pretty extensively over the last couple of weeks as we've been getting these updates. But the newest thing, tomorrow it is set to begin those closing arguments. What is going to be happening there in the courtroom?
Yeah, so tomorrow Lori Daybell gets a chance to rest her case. And basically she'll stand up in front of the jury, rest her case. However, one little sidebar is that she hasn't rested her case in front of the jury yet. So if she wants to change her mind and decide to testify, she still has the right to testify. And you might see that, who knows what she's going to do because she's been representing herself. But most likely, if she doesn't testify in this case, she'll rest her case and the judge will read what you call closing arguments and read the jury instructions, the instructions that the jury will get to decide how to use the facts and the law of the case. And then you'll see the prosecutor give their closing argument. You see Lori Daybell get up, she'll give her closing argument. And because the burden of proof is on the prosecutor to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, the prosecutor gets the last opportunity to speak to the jury. And ultimately, you need all 12 jurors to decide whether or not Lori Daybell will be guilty or not guilty. So it has to be a unanimous jury.
And it's been interesting watching those moments in the courtroom where Lori has decided to defend herself in this case. Can you sort of talk to us right now, Ben, just about how unique that is, unique of a situation? Most people rely on their legal counsel. Lori wanted to take on these charges and defend herself to those jurors.
Yes, Christina, it's very rare that you see a person in a high-profile case represent themselves. And she decided that she doesn't want an attorney, she doesn't need any help. And basically, when you represent yourself in a criminal case, the judge holds you to the same standards as if you had an attorney. So basically, she's representing herself in this case. That means she's doing her own cross-examination, she's doing her own research, her own writing, her motions in this case, and her own arguments. And then she'll be up there tomorrow doing her own closing argument all by herself. So it's very rare that you see a person represent themselves, but she's doing her best that she can. And the judge is, allowing her to, ask the questions, and the prosecutor has to, cross-examine and ask direct questions. So it's very unique to see a person represent themselves in this high-profile case of conspiracy to commit murder.
And as we're taking a look at some of these images that are on the screen as well, you see Lori in court sitting between her legal counsel. You're saying that it's not too late to rule out the fact that she still could step up to the stand. I have to ask you, Ben, what could she possibly say if she is on that witness stand? What do you think would be going through her mind that could provide some sort of interest in this to say that she should not be guilty of these charges?
So she's had all weekend to think about what she wants to do for her closing argument and to testify. And because the evidence is so strong against her, there's body camera evidence, there's an autopsy, there's so much evidence. There's text messages here that she may have, pretty much confessed to doing this. It's because the evidence is so uphill battle. She might need to take the stand and look the jurors in the eye to be able to convince at least one juror to be able to say maybe not guilty or even a hung jury, because in a criminal case, you need all 12 jurors in order to say guilty or not guilty. So she has to pretty much convince the jury that she didn't conspire with her brother to kill her ex-husband. And if she does that, it convinces one or two jurors who go back in the jury room to say, hey, maybe this is a hung jury. Maybe we do believe Lori Daybell here. If she does that, then you can have a hung jury, or I doubt she'll convince all 12 jurors, but it could happen. But if she convinces one or two, you have a hung jury. And basically, we're back here doing the whole case all over again. Because if there's a hung jury, that means there's no conviction, and you start all over the whole case again.
I think what also makes this case interesting is that the other party who's involved in it, her brother, is also deceased at this point. Does that just leave more holes for the jury? Does that make it easier for Lori to plead her case, being that nobody else is here to say anything to the other, that this was what happened or more than what she said?
And that's been her defense all along. Did anybody hear me conspire? Did anybody see me conspire with my brother? And now that her brother is dead, her brother can't testify, so you can't hear the words from his mouth either. So that will make it easier for her to argue doubt. That's why they say beyond a reasonable doubt. And if she can argue doubt and convince one or two jurors that there is doubt here, even though there's all this evidence here, but there is some doubt here that I did this, she's not being charged of actually pulling the trigger. And that's what the people have to understand. She's being in charge of conspiring with somebody else to pull the trigger. So for the state, the prosecutor has to prove that she conspired with her brother, pretty much had to deal with her brother or talk to her brother in order for her husband to die and get killed. And that's going to be kind of hard for the state to prove that, even with the evidence, if she convinces one or two jurors. So that, yes, Christina, that's been her whole argument. You didn't see me do this. Nobody heard me do this. So how can you charge me and convict me of conspiring when there's the other person's dead? The brother is dead. So you can't prove that I conspired with him if he's dead.
And as we're watching this case, I want to point out something else that's not related to this one in particular. But Lori has already been convicted in another case for